We're connecting the dots between cutting horses, national rein cow horses, and team roping healing horses. Julie Mankin from the Team Roping Journal and Clay Logan, who is an AQHA world champion and a rope horse trainer, join us now on Western Sports Roundup to talk about the connection. Guys, welcome and thanks for joining us on the show.
Fun to be here.
Julie, I want to start off with you. You wrote this incredible article in Team Roping Journal, kind of talking about the breeding and how it's connected from the cutting horse world to the national rein cow horse world in healing horses. And what was your big inspiration for writing the article?
You know, it was something we had wanted to delve into at the magazine for a while, just because we really follow the top heel horses. And one thing that kind of struck me, you know, a lot of times when we talk heel horses, we talk about size and we talk a lot about stop. But what I hadn't realized was those bloodlines being infused into heel horses is really giving those horses a lot of cow smarts. So Joseph Harrison, I think it was, told me they can read a cow so amazingly well now. So that was kind of interesting.
Well, and Clay, in your program, I'm sure you run across this a lot. How much has the cutting industry as well as the reining industry kind of influenced your rope horse program?
Probably for the last 20 years, I've been around the cutting industry. I was around the cutting industry when I first started training horses in Texas. And the cutting horses actually have been what I've been with for a long time. I have the feel that they have suits my style of training. And I think that the cutting horses, for me, are big stoppers. They read a cow good. You just have to learn how to reposition the horse and kind of teach them their new job. They already know how to ready steer and they know, have enough. They have to learn how to run kind of, but they learn to ready steer already. You just kind of have to reposition them and further their education, I guess you'd say.
What I love about this article is that it connects each one of these disciplines, that all these horses are connected in some way. Through cutting, if it doesn't make it in the cutting, maybe they'll make a great heel horse, same for rein cow horses and then all that. With everything that we have going on, the NCHA Super Stakes, the National Rein Cow Horse Stallion Stakes over in Las Vegas, Clay, is that something that you pay attention to as a rope horse trainer? Do you watch these horses in the show pen, or do you get more cutting reject type horses?
Lots of the horses that we'll come across will be some horses that maybe end up being a little bit too big for the horses to be an open horse in the cutting. And some of the horses in the cow horse might end up being a little bit bigger than they needed them to be for the cow horse and to compete at a real high level. The athlete, the biggest part is they have to be an athlete. It doesn't, even on our event, the roping, the head and the heeling, they have to be able to run, they have to be able to stop, and they have to be able to read a cow. I mean, it's no different than the cutting in that situation or the cow horse stuff.
Right, it requires so much athletic ability, especially to be able to compete on a professional level. Julie, when I was reading this article, you gave so many different examples. Jake Long's Colonel, Billy Jack Saban's Kevin, Brady Miner's Shug. You talked to a lot of different team ropers. They really all have a lot in common with this cow horse breeding. Was that interesting to you?
You know, it was. And Janie, I think you'll find this interesting. I kind of stumbled onto the first ever crossover, in my opinion, probably. Just today, I asked Corey Kuntz to compare the dun horse that he won the BFI on 25 years ago to the dun horse that he won the BFI on last week. And it was pretty fascinating to me. The current horse remix is Jose Uno, great cutting sire, and Hollywood Dunnett, Brayman's great stud, One Hot Jose. And he said the difference is that this horse was specifically trained, like especially trained to go where Corey wants him to go. Iceman was actually so good at reading cows that, Corey was just a kid in the early 90s, and that horse read those cows at 3-time PRCA AQHA Horse of the Year. Phenomenal. And he was an own grandson of Mr. Gunsmoke, reigning cow horse Hall of Fame, great cutting sire. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that he was one of the first crossovers that could really read a cow.
Wow, that is super cool. And Clay, maybe you can attest to this. It seems like these horses that come from a cow-bred background, cutting horses or reining, they're almost trained and bred to be automatic with a cow, which really correlates well as a heel horse, wouldn't you say?
Yes, they have to really do the same, really the mirror image of the cow as they do in the cutting, except in a different position. They have to keep their distance, their run, their rate, and be consistent doing it, and be good-minded and being athletic to overcome some situations when they have to think for themselves, and you have to let them think for themselves.
Something that was brought up in the article that I also found fascinating, Billy Jack Sapins was kind of talking about a myth that a lot of people have. They think cutting horse bred horses are going to be too small or they're not going to be fast enough. But he says that he's never had that issue with his heel horse, such as Kevin, or a lot of these heelers don't have that problem with a lot of people that have cutting horses. Do you feel like these horses are big enough, they're fast enough? You don't necessarily need a big horse to be a heel horse, but they do have to have the speed.
Yes, they have to have the speed and they have to have the stop. The World Series barrier that they have now for the ropings, most of the ropings besides the rodeos, which of course rodeos, the horses have to have plenty of run too, but they have to, they're giving them a fair enough head start that you can't really cheat the barrier. Those horses have to be able to run enough to get up and around that steer and try to give them guys a pretty good chance to throw fast. And as we've all seen, the roping has just got tougher and tougher, even in the last 5 years. I mean, it's evolved into unbelievable to me watching these guys rope, heading and heeling. Their talent's unbelievable, and their horsepower is really unbelievable.
Right, that's an excellent point. It gets tougher and tougher every year. We see that in results and in the times, and a lot of that is because of this breeding that's really come along. Julie, in your article, you talk a little bit about some of these top sires. You talk about big-time cutting sires like $3 million sire, Metallic Cat, Highbrow Cat, one of the best cutting horse sires of all time. But we're seeing that in the rope industry. Right now we're taking a look at some of these amazing horses here, and they've really influenced the entire program by putting this cutting horse breeding into the team roping.
They really have, and especially Metallic Cat, that bloodline, just all performance horses, just the entire industry. There's barrel racing breeders looking into it. The athleticism of that stallion's just off the charts. Clay and I were actually just talking about how in the last couple of years, it's really gone nuts. And I didn't realize, obviously Highbrow Cat is the sire, but then Pepto Boonsmall's on the other side. And of course, Clay has an unbelievable aged gelding heel horse replay that's Pepto Boonsmall. So maybe he can speak to what that magic combination is there.
Right, no, definitely. And Clay, as you look back on your rope horse program, are there any examples of some cow-bred horses that have just been some standouts that have come through your barn out of your rope horse program?
We've been real fortunate to have some pretty nice heel horses that have through the years that have done real good for us. I kind of lean back to the older school. If I could find something out of the old Freckles Playboy mares, if it was by Highbrow Cat, if it was by Pepto Boonsmall or whatever it was, something of that bloodlines. Those older mares right there, they had a little more grit to them, a little more size. They were big stoppers. They can handle bad ground. They can handle good ground. They can handle bad cows. They can handle good cows. Leland Shield Bars was somewhat related to that, to Freckles Playboy. Those older mares are hard to find, but Highbrow Cat, he's the books say, look at the books. He's got horses in every discipline right now. I mean, there's horses, the cutting, the cow horse, the reining, the roping. He's an unbelievable stallion, and the people are fortunate enough that they've really promoted him and they've bred him some great mares, and he's got offspring that have won in every part of the arena.
That's a great point. A good horse is a good horse, whether you're in cutting, reining, or professional level and heeling in the team roping. And Julie, you did an excellent job of giving examples throughout the article of lots of different professional horses that have come out of this breeding program. Thank you guys so much for joining us on Western Sports Roundup. And Julie, thanks for writing such an interesting article.
Great being here. Thanks for covering it.